Welcome to the Dean Blechman Show, live from Long Island. Free-flowing talk with a charismatic, down-to-earth host. Join Dean as he interviews and chats freely with his guests, ranging from superstar athletes to politicians, industry titans, and everyday folk with fascinating life stories. Dean educates, entertains, and most of all, touches people's lives. You're listening to the Dean Blechman Show, live from Long Island.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dean Blechman Show. This is your host, Dean. My guest today is my friend, Stephen Leaderman. Stephen is an educator and one of the most brilliant minds in the sports world. And Steve is going to be our future senior correspondent, sports editor. Steve, welcome. Glad to have you on board with us today.
Thank you for having me, Dean. It's been a pleasure to be here.
You bet. You bet. Glad to have you. How's the family?
Everybody is good.
Yeah?
Wife and kids are good. Parents are good. Friends are good. So life is good. Family, friends are good.
What do they say? Happy wife, happy life.
Ain't that the truth?
You got it, man. Great to have you. And as I said earlier, you're one of the most brilliant, up-to-the-date sports minds, and I look forward.
Thank you.
I look forward to you being a senior correspondent, sports editor for the Dean Blechman Show. And just quickly today, I just really want to focus. There's a lot of sports going on, but we don't have that much time. We're really going to focus on the NFL and how you see the upcoming season. I think the season starts, September the 11th?
The 11th is the first Sunday game. So the Thursday would be the first game.
So I'm gonna leave it to you to bring my audience up to date on how you see this preseason and the early season and the first weekend of the NFL. It's all yours, Steve.
Great, thank you. So we have on the Thursday game is actually a rematch of the Super Bowl. We have Carolina Panthers versus the Denver Broncos, and Carolina looks like a repeat to go back to the Super Bowl. They have Cam Newton and their strong defense, and I think Cam Newton gets a bad rap, but I think he's a good kid. He's a great athlete, and I think he will learn from his mistakes and move the team forward to, I think, possibly even winning the Super Bowl this year.
So, Steve, you feel that Carolina Panthers are the strong favorite team to get into the Super Bowl and possibly win it this year?
I do. I think that Cam Newton and the strong defense really is what gives them a step ahead above just about any team in the NFC.
Wow.
Even the Giants, with all their additions that they added. I'm a little bit of a homer when it comes to the Giants, but Carolina, I think, really is the most complete team. They get Travis Benjamin back, which is a huge boost to them. They're wide receiver that didn't have last year.
Wow.
So I think adding more, and then through the draft, they just build, and I think they're a solid foundation and have a good shot to get back.
Super. Wow. Carolina Panthers. Cam Newton, great quarterback.
Yes, I think he's going to be a good face for the NFL.
Okay. What's next?
Then you have Denver, who they play, which, who knows? They also have another phenomenal defense, which won them the Super Bowl last year against the Carolina Panthers. But we don't know what they're going to be without Peyton Manning. And they lost Brock Osweiler to Houston, which kind of came out of left field and for a significant amount of money.
Wow.
But we'll see what happens with.
So are you picking the Broncos, the Denver Broncos, to be back in the Super Bowl?
No, not at all.
You're not. Okay.
This was just their first game of the season is the rematch of the Super Bowl. But I do think Carolina of the two has a very good chance to get back.
Great.
We'll run down the division champions who I think they'll be. I'll give a brief overview of each team, and then I'll do the same thing for the AFC wildcard, and we'll go from there.
Very good.
So we'll start with the NFC East. And yes, like I said, Giant fan, but I do think that they have the strongest team this year going into the division, going into the season. I think with Dallas having Tony Romo out now for 6 to 10 weeks and Ezekiel Elliott getting busted with this marijuana charge, and Jerry Jones is unhappy about that, I think that knocks out Dallas, because if Tony Romo was in for quarterback, I think they have the best team. They have the strongest offensive line in the division. I mean, Philadelphia, they're in scrambles. They don't know what's going on. And Washington, I like Washington also. Kirk Cousins, I think he will be a solid quarterback in the NFL. We just have to see if he can repeat what he did last year. And they need to be a better team on the road. But overall, I think the Giants, with their additions that they got with Olivier Vernon and Stax Harrison, and they have JPP playing with his hand. Now he knows how to play with the clubbed hand. I think their defensive line will be strong. And their secondary, they added Janoris Jenkins, and they added a late round Leon Hall from Cincinnati, who was a Hall. So they have a very deep depth, and they also have Eli Apple, who they drafted this year, and they have the safety Landon Collins.
Wow, you're mentioning some names that my son Jared went to Michigan Wolverines, Ann Arbor, and
yes.
You keep mentioning some former Buckeyes, Zeke Elliott, Hall, and Cousins. They used to kill Michigan back in those days when Jared was at school. I didn't know about the Zeke Elliott situation. He just killed Michigan for the last couple of years.
Yes, they did.
So sorry to hear about him, but he was a Michigan killer.
Yes, he was, and hopefully he's not a Dallas killer.
Okay, so go ahead.
So for the NFC East, I think it's going to be the Giants. And then we have the NFC North. We have Green Bay, who you have Aaron Rodgers. You can't really do much worse than Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. You get Jordy Nelson and you have Randall Cobb. Jordy Nelson's coming back from injury, so I think they're going to open up the game more. And I heard that Eddie Lacy has really looked really good, and he lost a lot of weight, so I think he's ready to play. And they always have a solid defense with Clay Matthews and Julius Peppers anchoring that outside linebacker. They always put together a solid team.
Awesome team. The Tundra, right? Green Bay.
Oh yeah, the Frozen Tundra. Then you have Detroit, which Megatron retired. I can't believe Calvin Johnson retired. That's the second stud that they've had to retire before their prime. Same thing with Barry Sanders.
Wow, he was a stud.
Yes, I've read an article that they think he of the players that retired or retired last year, that he was one of the 5 Hall of Famers that retired from last year. I think he's a solid player. I don't know if I could put him in the Hall of Fame class. Same thing with Marshawn Lynch. There was an argument between him and Marshawn Lynch of the Seattle Seahawks that they were the 2 best to come out before their time, and they should be in the Hall of Fame. But they didn't put together enough for me to warrant them into the Hall of Fame. Great numbers, but for me, the Hall of Fame is more of a long haul.
Right.
I mean, everybody can run a sprint, but can you run a marathon?
Right.
Then we also have Minnesota, who I think is also a wild card pick. I like them a lot. They have a nice offense. Their defense is strong. They always have a solid defense core. But I really like what they're doing.
Minnesota Vikings. Okay.
And then who else isn't? Oh, Chicago. Oh, I love Chicago, but they can't ever put a team together in the Windy Cindy. Maybe they'll figure it out this year. But Jay Cutler and Alshon Jeffrey, they just lost to the Jets. They lost Matt Forte. I don't know what they're going to. I don't know what the Bears are going to do.
Wow.
So coming out of the North, I like Green Bay, and out of the East, I like the Giants. And in the South, I like Carolina. We have mentioned before; they're one of my favorites to get back to the Super Bowl.
Are you personally picking the Giants in the East?
I think out of the NFC East, the Giants are definitely the team to beat in the East.
Steven, is that an emotional decision, or is that a football decision?
No, that's a football decision.
Okay.
I mean, and it comes also down to Ben McAdoo. What can he do as the first-year head coach?
Right.
I mean, as an offensive coordinator, Eli for the last 2 years put up his best numbers ever. I mean, he threw interceptions, but Eli's always thrown interceptions. That's kind of his shtick. And Steve Spagnuolo is, I think, a great defensive coordinator. He just hasn't been given the pieces that he needed the last few years. Jerry Reese really hasn't put together a great team. And this year it's un-Giant-like to go out and spend big in free agency, what they did. So hopefully it'll work and they can gel together. Maybe they're not going to start off as strong as they like, but if they come together as a team and solidify as a solid foundation, I really think they have a good chance.
Terrific. That's great.
And so in the South, I have Carolina. New Orleans, I like to see what Breeze and Peyton can do because they won a Super Bowl. They really had a bad year last year. They have a great running back, Mark Ingram from Alabama, whose father, Mark Ingram, was a Giant wide receiver.
Wow.
Actually. And I think their defense may falter them a little bit. I think that's their weak point. That's not their strongest. But Coach Peyton has got a great mind, and Breeze is one of the top quarterbacks in the league. So great mind and a great coach and a quarterback can win big in this league.
Always looked at Drew Brees as one of the best in the league. Unbelievable. Great competitor, great quarterback. And
they play in the Superdome. How can you not like the Superdome in Louisiana? So in the NFC West, I like Seattle. I don't think I have them more of as a wild card team, but how could you not like Russell Wilson? I think he's another face of the franchise, another face of the NFL as a young quarterback. Can throw, he can run, he's not afraid to take a hit, and he does it when he has to. He does it in the postseason. It's kind of like baseball. Get it through baseball, and you get to the postseason, and it's the roll of the dice. And there's not many other quarterbacks I would want over Russell Wilson in the playoffs.
Great quarterback.
Speaking of the great quarterback from Arizona, you have Carson Palmer. I think they're going to win the division in the West.
Wow.
They have a solid offense. They're great wide receivers. You have David Johnson came on strong last year as a running back.
Great running back.
And he helped carry them to the NFC Conference Championship game, which they lost to Carolina. But I think it'll be a growing experience for them because under Bruce Arians, I think they will have a real chance with their defense. They have a very strong defense, and they attack the quarterback. That secondary is solid. I think they will have a solid chance. And then the Rams move to LA. Who knows what that's going to be like? Jeff Fisher's a good coach. I think they'll do well. Jared Goff, I think they should sit him the first year, but they want to throw him in. I'm kind of an old school in that way. I don't want the quarterback to play the first year unless they really, really need to. In this situation, they have a quarterback. They have other quarterbacks, but they want to rush him. That's what the new style is. I don't agree with it, but we'll see what happens in that.
There was one person that you left out that I think he retired, and we go back to the Seattle Seahawks.
Marshawn Lynch.
The Bulldog, Marshawn Lynch. When I think of, when you mentioned the Seattle Seahawks, even before the great Russell Wilson, I think of Marshawn Lynch. And,
Beast Mode was good.
I had to bring that up to you. I mean, he was not only great, he was colorful. I mean, he was unbelievable. I still think of that Super Bowl when they didn't run Beast Mode against New England. I couldn't believe that was just couldn't believe that.
Yeah, no, that's I still scratch my head at that. You're gonna throw it at the 2-yard line, and you're right there. You beast. It took 4 guys to bring him down, and I'll still never forget that run that he had against New Orleans.
New Orleans, yeah.
In the wild card game, it was like a 75-yard run, and he broke almost the whole entire team going north, south, east, west, and ran. Marshawn Lynch was great. I enjoyed him playing in Buffalo. Not many people realize that he was in Buffalo prior.
Steven, I don't remember that. I don't remember Marshawn Lynch playing up there in Buffalo.
Yeah, he played in Buffalo before he went to Seattle.
Right. That's why you're the sports editor for the Dean Blechman show, and I'm not.
There you go. Yeah, you worry about the other stuff. I'll worry about the sports. So coming out of the NFC, I'll go over again. We have the East, I think the Giants, North, Green Bay, South, Carolina, the West, Arizona, and the 2 wild cards I have is Seattle and Minnesota.
Wow.
So I like the NFC in that retrospect. And then you have the AFC, which is, I think, even more of a mess to decipher than the NFC. Because you start in the AFC East, you have New England. Tom Brady is now out for the first 4 games. What are you going to do? What are they really going to do? Are they going to pull another rabbit out of their hat? I mean, Tom Brady is Tom Brady, but I mean, you can't really mess with Belichick's system. It works. They always have a strong defense. You have Gronkowski, who's a monster. He takes the whole team to take him down. Last year, he put up monster numbers as a tight end. And it's very hard to have a linebacker run with him. Can't do it. And the safeties are too small. He's just a complete mismatch. And
wow.
him and Brady, after week 4, I put them on at least 9-1, 8-2 after that.
Wow.
We'll see what they do prior. I would like see them to make them playoffs because I enjoy watching Brady play. We don't get a quarterback like that too often. Granted, we just lost Peyton Manning to retirement. So it's kind of hard to say you don't see them, but those 2 were the top 2 upper echelon quarterbacks that I've seen in my lifetime. I was too young for Marino and Montana. I saw them at the end of their career. So to watch Peyton and Brady play, those have been the 2 staples that I've got to watch.
Great quarterbacks. As a matter of fact, Brady, a University of Michigan Ann Arbor alumni.
7th round pick.
You bet. So just a great quarterback.
He is, and he's a true competitor. A lot of people want to put him as a prima donna or a pretty boy or whatever. But you watch him; he gets right at the face of of his teammates, and he yells at them and screams, and you can see the emotion on his face when he doesn't complete a pass. So I like his competitiveness. I think he's a very solid quarterback. I'd love to have him on the Giants.
Okay. How's the rest of the league look?
The rest of the league is interesting, especially in the East. You have Miami Dolphins, who have Ryan Tannehill, and the whole controversy with the cornerback with the wife, and they let the cornerback go. Joshua Cribbs, not Cribbs. Grimes.
Grimes.
The wife was all over Twitter bashing the organization and Tannehill, so they let them go.
Right.
So
right.
I like Tannehill. I think he's going to be a solid quarterback. He's still got to put it together. He took a step back last year. I'd like to see him take a step forward. They have a very strong wide receiver core. They have good running game, solid defense. I mean, they did lose Olivier Vernon to the Giants, so we'll see how they go there. But they do have Ndamukong Suh, so we'll see how they do there. And then you have the Jets, of course. If they finally signed Fitzpatrick back, that was a battle waiting to happen. That shouldn't have happened. But they got him. They have a solid wide receiving core with Brandon Marshall. You have Eric Decker. I'll tell you, one guy who I'd like to think is going to have a possible breakout year is Enunwa. He came on at the end of last year. I think he's going to do something.
So you think a breakout year?
I think a possible breakout year. I mean, not a huge year, but something to put him on the map to say, okay, with somebody else we need to keep an eye out on. And then also Jason Morrow, their tight end came back. They drafted him a couple years ago, and he had started about really good his rookie year, and he got hurt last year. So now he's back in to work with Fitzpatrick. So now that's another weapon for them. And then they just got Matt Forte from the Bears as a free agent. So I think he will show them some leadership. And then they also have Kyrie Robinson and Bilal Powell, which is I think a very solid running game. They have a good offensive line. Their defense is always stout. They have a great defensive line with Sheldon Robertson, Muhammad Wilkerson, who they just re-signed, and Leonard Williams, the second-year guy out of USC. So they have a solid pass rush, and I think if they do, it'll help out David Harris and their rookie Darren Lee, who I think is pretty good. And I think he'll follow suit with David Harris and really be a strong anchor in the defense for the next decade or so.
David Harris, when I used to go see Jared at Michigan, I used to see
there's another Michigan alum.
David Harris, great linebacker at Michigan.
Yes, and followed suit into New York Jets. I wanted the Giants to draft him too. And then the Jets too. They have a solid core in the secondary. I mean, D. Milner's always getting hurt, so they got to kind of figure out something there. But they also have Calvin Pryor, who I think is a very strong safety. And you have Darrelle Revis. You have Revis Island. I mean, he is getting a little bit older, so he's getting a little bit slower. So he's not going to be as dominant, and he's not going to be that guy anymore. But he's still a competent, capable cornerback, top 10 cornerback in the league. And maybe even a year or two down the road, I could see him maybe even moving to safety and playing forever like Charles Woodson, who was one of my favorite players. And there you go, another Michigan alum.
Another Michigan alum.
That's pretty funny.
At some time we're going to talk about Jim Harbaugh. Huh?
I'll tell you what, he did a fantastic job in San Francisco. To come over from Stanford and then do what he did in San Francisco and then leave, it kind of shows what was going on in San Francisco. He left and they had a horrible year. So maybe it wasn't the players, it was Harbaugh that did everything.
Right. I want to be careful on this first show with you. I don't want to have too many Buckeyes or Spartan fans just coming to look for where this studio is in Setauket. So we'll keep it low key on this show with talking about the Spartans and the Buckeyes.
You got it. And then the last team, we got Rex Ryan's Buffalo Bills.
Rex Ryan, wow.
I don't know what to make of Rex. I was a Giant fan. I'm a Giant fan. So to me, his whole shtick is that let him be. That's the Jets coach. It's not my coach. But I guess as a player, they love to play. The players love to play for him. He is the prototypical player's coach. So, and they also have an interesting team. They got Sammy Watkins, who's a great wide receiver. And then you have Tyrod Taylor, who came out of nowhere. I mean, he was a rookie, not a rookie, but he was one of their draft picks and kind of came out and broke out and doing his thing. So I'd like to see Buffalo. I mean, they never have anything wrong. I kind of feel bad for them. They went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost all 4, but they haven't done anything since. But I'd like to see them do something. But that's not going to happen this year because I don't know. I really think I have the Patriots again winning the division, even though Tom Brady is not going to be there for 4 games. The Jets' schedule is incredibly hard. Miami, I don't know. If they put it together, then you can say that with every team. So, but out of the East, I definitely would have to say the Patriots.
Wow, Patriots again.
And then you have the NFC North. You have Baltimore kind of coming back from an off year, but they have won a Super Bowl in the last 5 years. So you can't knock them there. And Joe Flacco is coming back. You have Steve Smith there. I don't think he retired, so he'll be back, and he was a strong wide receiver for them the last 2 years. And he's almost touching 40, and he's still putting up big numbers. So, and they always have a very good defense in Baltimore. But that division is tough because you have Cincinnati, who should be another playoff team. You have Andy Dalton, a quarterback, A.J. Green at wide receiver, who's another top 10 receiver in the NFL. Their defense came together. You have their breakout rookie last year, Tyler Eifert, was their tight end, who came out of left field. Well, not really much out of left field, but he broke out bigger than anyone expected. So they're difficult to beat. And then you have Pittsburgh. You have the Steel Curtain. Ben Roethlisberger. You have Antonio Brown.
Wow.
Martavius Bryant. You go down the list. And then you have their running back who was suspended for 4 games for marijuana charges. I'll get back to his name in 1 second. I just drew a...
That's all right, Steve. That's all right.
So that the running back was he's gone for 4 games. So, and then their defense is always a stout defense. And then you have the problem that's Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns can never do anything right. But this year, I think they will. They hired Hugh Jackson as their head coach. I think he did a good job in Oakland when he was there. He kind of got a bad rap. But they just brought in RG3, Robert Griffin III. I think he will do the right thing as long as he stays mobile and doesn't take his big hits. If you see a hit coming, he's got to get out of the way or go down or try not to do that. Become maybe more of a pocket passer, which is really not his style, but if he wants to play, it's what he's going to have to do. But he does have a big target in Josh Gordon, who comes back from a year-long suspension.
Josh Gordon, great ball player.
So he has somebody to throw to, which is great. And now he kind of washes the stink of that was Johnny Manziel. And Johnny Manziel is gone. And I think that's great for the city of Cleveland. And Cleveland has a lot of hope. They have a good baseball team going right now. They just won the NBA championship. So I would give them a little time. They never give the coach any time. They've had like 7 head coaches in the last 6 years.
Wow, it'd be something to see the Browns come back.
So I think in a few years, I think they're a few years away. I mean, they're a few years away every year. But I really think with Hugh Jackson there, they really have a solid chance to build on something. And I think they're going to be headed in the right direction. So out of the NFC North, I think I'd like Cincinnati coming out of the NFC North this year with Pittsburgh as a wild card. And then you have the AFC South. You have the Houston Texans, who just signed Brock Osweiler. But no one really knows what he is. He helped Denver with their run, but Denver had the defense. They had that Super Bowl caliber defense, which won them the Super Bowl. So he was able to hold it together. He was able to do what he needed to do. He managed the game. Now he's that guy that needs to get it done. So we'll see what happens. I mean, he has DeAndre Hopkins to throw to. They have J.J. Watt, great defense to help keep the scores down, hopefully. So they're there. I mean, Arian Forster just left. He was hurt. So they're kind of all over the place. So we have to really see offensively what can happen. But they have a great wide receiver, and as long as they can protect Osweiler, I think they have a chance to win some games. And you have Tennessee coming back with Marcus Mariota. He ended up getting hurt last year. He's a phenomenal rookie that came out. They're in shambles as well. I mean, they're a rebuilding project, so I don't really foresee them doing much this year, maybe 5-6 wins. And then you have Indianapolis, who I like Indianapolis. I think Andrew Luck is a phenomenal quarterback. I think he's another face of the NFL of one of those quarterbacks. He was hurt last year, so he comes back refreshed. He has great wide receiving core to throw to. T.Y. Hilton, who kind of is an under the radar wide receiver, very solid. Their defense, hopefully their defense can put it together, and hopefully they'll get him an offensive line. That is kind of Andrew Luck's biggest problem. He's always getting sacked. He's getting hurt. If you can't protect the quarterback, then
great quarterback, Andrew Luck.
What can you do?
Great quarterback.
And then you have Jacksonville, who is one of those sleeper teams. I think they will put it together. They finally have a quarterback. They have a great wide receiver core. Their defense, I think, is what's a question with them. I like to see them win 9-10 games. I haven't really looked into depth at their schedule. But you have Blake Bortles at quarterback, and he really put a show on last year. He was showing people that he was the quarterback that they drafted in the first round a few years ago, and now that he has his targets. He has Allen Hurns. He has Mercedes Lewis, Allen Robinson. He's got people to throw to, and they catch the ball. and that's all you want from your wide receivers. So, and they put up points. They were scoring 30 points a game. So if
Powerful scoring team.
if they can do it, I have them as a breakout to maybe possibly snag a wild card spot.
Wow, exciting.
And then you have Oakland, which I'm actually interested in Oakland this year. Oakland is another possible breakout. They have Derek Carr, who, unlike his brother, had an offensive line, has a better offensive line in front of him. He was drafted in the first round 2 years ago. He's coming along. They have a good, solid running game. They're starting to get their wide receivers going, and they have a really good defense. So they have a really good chance. And then we had spoke about Denver. What are they going to be without Peyton Manning? We know they're all defense. They have offensive weapons around, but we really need to figure out what's going to happen with this quarterback position. Who is really going to take charge? And we'll find out during the preseason who will be the man to take over for Denver. We have San Diego, who I really like. I really like Phillip Rivers. They just brought in a couple new wide receivers. Their running game, they have last year they drafted a running back. I think he didn't expect the speed of the game to be as quick as it was in college. Because Melvin Jones really didn't put up as many points or score as many touchdowns as he would have liked. He didn't rush for as many yards, I don't think. But it was a solid rookie season. I think people around the NFL were looking for more. I think he's gonna do well this year. And then you have Kansas City, who I think will win the division. They have a strong team under Andy Reid.
Wow, the Chiefs.
Their defense is solid. They get to the quarterback. They have a strong secondary. The question is, can Alex Smith keep doing what he's doing? I think he will. They have a great tight end with Travis Kelce, who he's hard to stop too. He catches a lot of balls. He's big. He's hard to get down. He's a bad mismatch for secondary, and he's hard to cover for linebacker. So he's kind of in that Gronkowski stage, but not as good as Gronkowski. You have Jamal Charles, who comes back from injury last year, so I think he's going to be ready to go. He's incredible. He's hard to stop. And you also have Niles Davis, who I think is a solid backup, and Chandler West, who can put up some numbers and do some things as a good third down back if you need to. And then you have also Jeremy Maclin, who they got a couple years ago from Philadelphia as a free agent. So Alex Smith will have some people to throw to. And I think they have the best defense other than Denver in probably almost the whole AFC. They have a really strong defense. So I like the Chiefs to come out of the AFC West as winners. Out of the AFC South, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Indianapolis, as long as everything goes right. Jacksonville, maybe. I really am a fan of Jacksonville. I really think they're going to do something well. The AFC North, I like Cincinnati coming out. And AFC East, I like New England. And the wild cards, I would say Pittsburgh and Oakland or Jacksonville. It's kind of those three are the king. And we'll see what happens, what goes on with the NFL. It's going to be an interesting year. And that's kind of what's happened in the last few years of the NFL. There's only been a couple teams that have been dominant, but every team's coming out into the playoffs. It's going to make for another fun, great season.
Well, Stephen, one factor that doesn't get factored in this preseason update for the NFL schedule, how you see it, is obviously the injury factor. So the injury bug, what happens along the season. That's the wild card that happens, and especially with quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah.
How valuable they are. But this has been a very exciting show here, and one of many that I look forward to you being at the Dean Blechman Show as the senior correspondent, sports editor. You are an amazing young man, a brilliant sports mind in all sports, and I look forward to my audience enjoying your knowledge of sports and the update and pretty much how you see it. So with a week to go in the NFL season to begin, thank you so much for this preseason update, how you see the season, and I look forward to seeing you back.
Thank you very much for having me, Dean.
You bet, Steve.
You've been listening to The Dean Blechman Show, live from Long Island, New York. From all of us here, we'd like to thank you for tuning in. We look forward to hearing your comments via Facebook, Twitter, Skype, and email. And don't forget, you can visit the webpage anytime for the up-and-coming guest list. From all of us here, have a good evening.